Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes, and here are the three big stories. In the three big story segment, I try to look at what is most important, like looming stories, things that are significant. Ukraine's defense intel chief expects Russian offensive as early as spring. So I'm highlighting this because of a couple sentences in here. Late spring or early summer, we expect an increase of Russian offensive efforts, especially in Donbass. We all knew that. According to Budanov, a lot depends on the Czech initiative regarding artillery rounds for Ukraine. The need for ammunition at the front is now particularly acute. So notice he's not talking about the American initiative, passing that bill. It's all on that. Even if we got things passed in Congress, we would not be able to get anything to the front line in time. But then the article said this: Budanov does not consider the current situation a war of attrition, but sees it as a classic conventional war. So what's the difference? So a conventional war seeks clear objectives, decisive victory. Attrition is a prolonged conflict where you're trying to wear down the enemy. It's gradual and sustained erosion as opposed to intense battles that could ebb and flow. In a conventional war, there's high casualties in major battles. In a war of attrition, it's just you keep just grinding down over time. So it's interesting that that's his mindset, because part of this seems like a war of attrition. Okay, next, a close ally of populist prime minister tops a pro-Western diplomat to become Slovakia's president. Now, this is bad, but it's not quite as bad as the prime minister that's already there. Bratislava, Slovakia, a close ally of populist prime minister Robert Fico, beats a pro-Western career diplomat to become Slovakia's new president. Okay, so her name is Pellegrini. She says, "I promise I will be the president of all Slovak citizens. I can promise I will always be on the side of Slovakia." Pellegrini's victory cemented Fico's grip on power by giving him and his allies control of major strategic posts. Now, the president is not really, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, as important as the prime minister within the system. And so different countries ebb and flow in how that works. Like the president is the most important in the United States, but it might not be somewhere else. The president of the nation's 5.4 million people picks the prime minister after the parliamentary elections, swears in a new government, appoints constitutional court judges, can also veto laws. But that's not the same thing as how robust the powers are of the president in the United States. But nonetheless, it's bad that Fico has an ally just like Fico, and that's going to be pushing away from Ukraine more than likely. Okay, last thing, this is in the Washington Post, inside Donald Trump's secret long-shot plan to end the war in Ukraine. Trump's proposal consists of pushing Ukraine to cede Crimea and Donbass to Russia, according to people who discussed it with Trump or his advisors, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because these conversations were confidential. Okay, what does Ukraine get out of that? So they get to have the end of a war? They're not going to accept that. Trump said that he thinks that both Russia and Ukraine want to save face, they want a way out, and that people in parts of Ukraine would be okay with being part of Russia, according to a person who has discussed the matter directly with Trump. I've been spending, this is Lindsey Graham saying, "I've been spending 100% of my time talking to Trump about Ukraine," said Senator Lindsey Graham, a one-time Trump critic turned ally. Quote, "He has to pay a price. He can't win at the end of this," Graham added, speaking of Putin. But Putin won't be paying a price if he gets those territories. The Trump campaign declined to directly address questions for this article. Any speculation about President Trump's plan is coming from unnamed, uninformed sources who have no idea what's going on or what will happen, said a campaign spokeswoman. At the very end of the article, I want to point out this. Trump's team is, quote, "thinking about this very much in silos. That is just a Ukraine-Russia thing. They think of it as a territorial dispute rather than one about the whole future of European security and the world order by extension." I think that actually hits the nail on the head. How you think about this is important, because if so I started this because I realized immediately when Russia invaded Ukraine, like this is something that could be game changing. It could be World War III like. It could be at least devastating for Europe, if not the entire world. And so it's very important. But when he thinks that he's going to give away these territories and then just have peace, look, at the very end, Michael Kaufman summed this up. No amount of leverage the United States has is likely to compel Ukrainian leadership to engage in policies that would constitute domestic political suicide. And that's really the reality of it. Okay, that's all for the three big stories. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.